All right, welcome to our 2 o'clock Thursday public meeting. It's for October 24th. Please join me in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Missoula County acknowledges that this event takes place in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people. Do we have any public announcements?
Hello, everyone. If you're joining us for this meeting virtually today, instructions for turning on closed captioning are on your screen. If you're joining us in person, we'll have closed captioning on all the screens here in the Sophie and Louise room. There will be an opportunity to speak during the meeting for public comment virtually and in person. We ask that all speakers today speak slowly and clearly. This helps with the accuracy of the closed captioning. If you're on Microsoft Teams, if you would like to speak when discussion has been open for public comment, we ask that you use the raise hand feature. This is the small hand button at the top of your screen. If you are calling in on the phone, you'll need to hit *5 to raise your hand. Once called upon, you'll need to hit *6 to unmute. We also have assisted listening devices. If you need one, come find me during the meeting. If you have any other questions, let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Do we have any public comment on items not on the agenda? I'm looking online as well in the room. Dave. Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Make sure the mic's on, Dave, and then just say your name, please.
Dave Everingham. Thanks. In my letter, TIF refers to tax increment funding. TED refers to Targeted Economic Development District. TIFs work by borrowing against the future increase of property taxes. So we can borrow a bunch of money so Grant Creek Crossing LLC can have a new infrastructure and develop 85 acres and make huge profits. It's an old gravel pit. Missoula Redevelopment Association has 6 TIFs in Missoula with a $55 million bond debt and $6 million a year debt service. Since 2006, the city has imposed 8 SIDs on my property to fund programs that used to come out of the general fund. As Missoula has tripled in size, our tax basis in the districts has not. Now the schools need $2 million extra, and the fire department needs $9 million a year on a SID. MRA gave the city $3 million to bridge the budget deficit. How ironic is that? The rural fire department and Hellgate Elementary telling the county they are already strained from the TEDs. If we look hard at tax increases, some come from TIFs because they are in 1980 mode. The same will happen with your TEDs. Our county will outgrow the tax basis of your TEDs. Grant Creek Crossing is a horrible development area. At each end is a vertical wall, 100-foot vertical wall of dirt. And on the west side, above it is Westview Park, 400 mobile homes. This is all from mining in the pit. There's a 100-foot hole at the north end with mining operations in progress. The only access is Schramm Street. The only water main is at Reserve Street, North Reserve Street, 1/4 mile away from the edge of the Grant Creek Crossing property. It is only an 8-inch main that goes north and supplies half of Grant Creek and 1/4 of North Reserve. There's not enough water available in that main to supply a huge industrial residential area. Have you researched this? Most industrial buildings require 2 4-inch fire sprinklers, water mains. The city just won't let the county hook into their services. Grant Creek Crossing, we need a commitment from the developer and a plan for the utilities. Westview Park is adjacent to and 100 feet above this old Grant Creek gravel pit. Over 400 units there are on cesspools and each has their own well. Will this drain into that development? They have sewage problems out there. Let's clean that up first. In the old gravel pit are many piles of dirt dumped after the pit stopped production. Has it been tested for toxic substances? What is the history of that pit? We need more insight for this project before any TED is developed. Let's borrow money to rebuild some county bridges and our present infrastructure. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave.
Actually, can he leave a copy of what?
Dave, do you have a copy of that for us? Or do you want to send it to us?
I can bring it by tomorrow.
Yeah, that's fine. Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment on items not on the agenda? Okay, our current claims list. Claims received as of October 2nd, 2024 to October 15th, 2024 by the Commissioner's Office total $4,703,582.76. We have 4 hearings today. The first one is the second hearing on the West Valley Community Council boundary change, and Kyla Leonards will present.
Okay, just getting this pulled up here. All right, Kyla Leonards with Lands and Communities. I'm here to present the West Valley Community Council boundary change. This is the second hearing. Last hearing, I did go over a little bit more of the historical. Today, I'll just recap the boundary change consideration and why we are here today. So in February of this year, it was brought to the attention that some community members do not reside within the community council boundary. The boundaries are currently voter precincts. In May of this year, the West Valley Community Council provided a letter requesting a consideration of the boundary change from voter precincts to the Frenchtown School District. In June of this year, the Evero-Finley O'Keefe Community Council was dissolved, and this now allows for this consideration before you for the realignment. A couple notes about the change consideration. It could be revised to include more residents who are not currently represented by a community council. Some residents previously represented by the Evero Council do live within the Frenchtown School District, and this consideration would better align with other community council boundaries, as most community council boundaries are school districts. Just a little note here, this is a current boundary of the voter precinct. This is the West Valley Community Council and the old Evero Council, just so you can see that for what it currently is. This next slide will show the change. This is the proposed change to the school district boundary. As you can see right here, this area that was the Evero Community Council would now be Frenchtown, which would include part of that community council and some of those community members. This is just another aerial view of the map showing the proposed new boundary change. This is all of the councils, just to give you perspective of where all the councils are in Missoula County. There are 7 of them. And here we are today to request you close public comment and approve the resolution to realign the council boundaries to the school district.
Thanks a lot, Kyla. Do we have any public comment on this? Anyone like to speak to this at all?
I have a quick question, Kyla, just for a reference. What's the geographical reference for that boundary, the east-west boundary of the Frenchtown School District 40? Sorry, can you scroll back to like the 3 slides?
Not like a highway.
Yeah, I just want to know kind of like where.
Are you looking at this?
Yes, or the one above.
Maybe the previous one.
So on the far, yes. So there we go. So what's the on the far eastern side? Yeah, right where your cursor is, maybe a little further east.
Over here?
And then, yeah, right there. And
Yeah, this is the DeSmet School District.
okay, and then the northern, yeah, keep going north, right there, down lower. Yeah, what is that?
Right here.
Yep.
This is, so it was voter precincts.
I was just paying attention to that. I wasn't paying attention to the chat because I wanted to know for applications.
Maddie.
Maddie, you might want to mute yourself.
Okay.
Sorry, was that for Maddie?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to know where that is. I can see it on the map. I just don't know where it is in my head.
Yeah, this is just the voter precinct that is denoted by that. The
Thank you.
Our Lee School District covers majority of Evero, if that helps for direction. And then, yeah, this is just, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, I guess.
No,
Good enough.
that helps. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
I'm going to bring up the resolution language again.
I make a motion to close public comment.
I'll second that and ask for any public comment. Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I also make a motion to approve the resolution to realign boundaries of the West Valley Community Council to Frenchtown School District 40.
I'll second that and ask, is there any public comment on this? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Kyla.
Thank you.
Glad we got this over the finish line. Our next hearing is a resolution of intent for proposed RSID on Lena Lane. John Hart will present.
Yeah, good afternoon, commissioners. I'm going to introduce some aspects of the resolution of intent to create a rural special improvement district for some improvements on Lena Lane in Missoula County. Again, I'm going to hit a few of the high points, and then I think there's at least one individual from the Public Works Department that will also present, and there may be some property owners too that want to offer their thoughts on this proposal. This RSID is made up of 15 properties, and the purpose of the RSID would be to design, engineer, and construct paved roadways on Lena Lane, more specifically pulverizing the existing asphalt surface, providing new asphalt surface at 2.5-inch depth, 22 feet wide, providing a 3/8-inch chip seal wear surface, shoulder dressings, drainage improvements, and other related improvements, which cost a total of $156,498.93. That's an estimate, of course. And the amount that would be paid by the residents through the proceeds of a bond over the course of 10 years of assessments on their property taxes, that total amount that the 15 property owners would pay is not to exceed $49,000. So about $107,498 and change will be paid from other available funds and in-kind contributions by the Missoula County Public Works Department. If you were to pass this resolution of intention to create the RSID, then the clerk and recorder's office will publish notice of its passage in the Missoulian on November 2nd and November 9th. Each one of the property owners will receive by mail a copy of the notice of intention, and that will then start a 30-day protest period wherein any property owner can provide a written protest to being part of this proposed RSID. The deadline for doing that would be December 6th of 2024. And then there will be a second meeting, same place, same time, on December 12th, where you, the board, will hear and consider and pass on any protests that are made to create the RSID. That's what I have. That's what I have, unless you have any questions for me.
So we do this today and then we're open collecting comment for a month.
Right.
We have 2 more public hearings.
There'll be at least one more public hearing on December 12th. And the way the statute reads is that if you're a property owner in the district and you want to protest, it has to be in writing. And the deadline for that would be, again, December 6th.
Okay.
We live in Montana. We have strong public participation, constitutional rights, and statutory rights. So you're still going to take public comment about this RSID on December 12th, because that's the way our meetings operate in Montana. But if a property owner wants to protest and have his or her protest considered as a property owner, it has to be done by December 6th.
Great, thanks. Is there specific language to acknowledge that we're approving this resolution of intent?
Oh, let's see, I didn't, I'm not as slick as Kyla. I didn't draft up a proposed motion, but
Go for it. Yeah.
it would be, I move to pass the resolution of intent,
Create RSID.
create RSID. We've even given it a number.
Yeah, there it is,
Say the
8506.
RSID for Lena Lane. You could say the RSID for 8506.
Okay,
Something
thanks.
like that.
I don't have any questions. So I'd move that the board consider resolution of intention to create RSID 8506 for local improvements on Lena Lane.
Any public comment on
Yeah.
this?
And again, somebody from Public Works may want to add something. There may be residents who want to add
Yeah.
something too. That was an invitation.
Yeah, I see that. Eric Dixon, County Public Works. So it was about a year ago that Jerry Fisher, who is one of the residents here today, called with concerns about the condition of Lena Lane and where it stood on the county's consideration for resurfacing. And I had to give the unfortunate answer that these residential streets are falling behind and the revenue to the road fund does not keep up with the needs. So Jerry was not afraid of the idea of an RSID and took the winter and spring to work with her neighbors, and they did in fact opt to move forward with the RSID process. I have to put a plug in here for a new piece of equipment that we purchased. Our $500,000 reclaimer is a benefit on this project. It's an existing asphalt road. We don't have any real drainage problems. There's no rutting. There's no subsurface failure. It's just old, dry, cracked surfacing. So we can use that piece of equipment to pulverize the existing road to create a new base for a fresh asphalt surface, and then provide a chip seal for a final seal and increase the longevity of that road. So it's a very low risk project. It's only 0.2 of a mile, straight and level, and the work that we're going to do is a great maintenance project for one of our existing county maintained roads. And, I have to give a nod to the residents to pick up the slack where, our budget can't keep up with the work that we need to do. They were able to step up, and we appreciate the help that they're giving us. So this will be one of our top priority projects as early as we can next year.
Great, thank you.
My name is Jerry Fisher. I live on Lena Lane. I'd like first to give you a little background about Lena Lane. This is the second time the residents have had to pay to redo the road. The first time was back in the mid-'80s, and we had to have an SID at that time. to do road improvements. Well, nothing's been done since, and the road is very quickly getting very bad. So we recognize, we're not doing this joyfully. We recognize it's the county's responsibility. We pay taxes to have the road maintained. However, we also recognize the money is simply not there. And if we want to have a decent road, we're going to have to step up and do this. But I do want you to know, even though the majority of the Lena Lane folks are in favor, there's a significant number of them who are not, who feel like it's a county road, they pay taxes. And of course, we just had that huge tax increase, which I personally do not blame on the county, no matter what the governor says. But, people are taxed to death. And so doing this, one thing I do want to change, there's a couple things, but we would like it to be the 20-year SID rather than the 10-year. Some people just, even at that difference, in that little bit, they're taxed out right now.
Sure.
So we'd like to put it over 20 years. We also had different dates, and I'm not sure why they changed, but it's okay. It's not a problem. The deadline is now 12/6, and I think it was 11/27 maybe for people to protest. And then the final meeting was going to be the December 3rd, and now it's the 12th, which is fine, but we were not aware of that change. But we do want the 20-year SID to have that option. Is there anything else I can answer for you?
Oh, thanks for taking this on and working with your neighbors and
Well,
bringing it to
I
this point.
do have to say, people complain all the time about working with the county. And not since you folks have been here, but I've spent a lot of time testifying before county commissioners. Have worked a lot with county and city folk. And I will tell you, this is probably one of the best experiences I've ever had after 40 years in business. It's been a pleasure working with the county. They've been efficient and honest and straightforward and have gotten the job done. And I, for one, appreciate that.
Oh,
Thank
thanks so
you.
much for that, Jerry. Well done, Public Works and John Hart.
Yeah, those are very kind words, Mrs. Fisher. And you probably saw an earlier draft of this.
Yes.
And somebody pointed out to me, because there's 2 holidays in November that I was counting in the 30 days, that it wasn't enough time. So I had to extend them out. Yeah. Commissioners, there's one detail I should have mentioned that I forgot to mention. So I had said that the cost to be assessed on all 15 parcels is about $49,000. Of course, that's an estimate. But that makes it per lot about $3,260. And that'll be slightly higher because of the interest.
Over 20 years.
Over
Yeah.
20
Yeah.
years.
So that won't be the exact figure.
Thanks. Sir?
Yeah, my name's Dale Bosworth. I live on Lena Lane. I'm the
Maybe-
president of the
Can you get a little
the,
closer to
River
the
Park.
Dale,
Homeowners.
would you mind getting a little closer to the microphone so we can hear you better? Thank you.
Doesn't reach up this high. Okay.
There
how's
you
that?
go. That's perfect.
Okay, do you want me to repeat what I just said?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm Dale Bosworth. I live on Lena Lane. I'm the president of the River Park Homeowners Association. That covers the south side of Lena Lane. And I was one of the ones that helped get this going. Jerry and I met with every homeowner on both sides of the street and explained all this. A lot of people support it, but a lot of people, just like Jerry said, believe that, well, that was really the county's job. But we were offered this opportunity for a cost share. We felt like we needed to step up, and most people did. I also want to say that working with Eric and the folks from whatever.
Public Works.
Yeah, Public Works. I knew it was something like that. It's been a pleasure.
Great.
And they've been very, very helpful. Eric particularly been very, very helpful. So I just want to pass on my appreciation for that.
Thank you, sir.
So that's all I have to say.
No, thank you. Good job, Eric.
My name is Ted Lane, and I'm the Vice President of the River Park Homeowners Association, and I'm just here to say I support this RSID, and unless you have any specific questions for me, I'll sit back down.
Thank you. We have any other public comment on this? So we have a motion. I'm going to second that motion. And given that we just called for public comment, I'm going to say all in favor.
Well, and
Oh.
we have received one comment over email, not supporting it. But I don't know how many others. That's the only one I've seen. Okay.
So
and
this
then
would just be a
Yep.
vote. We're going to keep this open till
Just
December.
wanted folks to know that's what we have heard.
Yeah, this is just to pass a resolution
Of intent.
Of intent.
And you will be considering a final resolution on December 12th.
Yep. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Thanks, John. Thanks, folks, for coming. Okay, our next hearing, this is about Montana Ave, boundary line relocation and aggregation, and Katie is going to present. Katie Reeder, I didn't say her last name, sorry.
From Izu Dwell LLC for a boundary line relocation and aggregation for properties at 273 Montana Avenue and 326 Peacock Street. Property is located at the southwest corner of Montana Avenue and Peacock Street and is owned by Izu Dwell LLC. The subject property is composed of 6 individual lots or portions thereof. There are no flood hazard areas or steep slopes on the property. The subject property, all lots are involved are zoned Live Make neighborhood and fall within the boundaries of the 2016 Missoula County Growth Policy and 2019 Missoula Land Use Element. The Growth Policy land use designation is Live Make neighborhood as well. Izu Dwell LLC proposes to relocate the boundaries of 6 adjoining tracts of land within a platted subdivision and aggregate them into 3 larger lots to create more sellable lots from the existing parcels. Izu Dwell LLC aims to sell the lots at an affordable price to create homeownership opportunities. This is the proposed graph right here. Ultimately, they wish to redraw the boundaries of those 6 tracts to look like this. The section of law 76.3.207 requires the commissioners to take action on boundary line relocations in platted subdivisions where there are 6 or more tracts affected. Because 6 tracts are being affected by policy, I bring this to you. Part of the process for boundary line relocations is sending the application to various Missoula County agencies for comments and reviews. including environmental health, floodplain, clerk and recorder, building division, public works engineering, water and air quality divisions, as well as the surveyor's office and county attorneys. There were no comments to be made except for environmental health. They have sanitation reviews and/or exemptions required for subdivision exemptions with parcels less than 20 acres. In the planning office, we look at the evasion criteria and rebuttal presumptions for boundary line relocations and determine after an evaluation if any red flags are raised in that evaluation that would indicate evasion. Of the 3 rebuttal presumptions and 18 evasion criteria, 2 of the criteria were identified to possibly indicate evasion. However, this is the most appropriate exemption to use for what they want to accomplish. Therefore, we do not identify this as evasion and recommend approval with the motion on the screen before you today.
Thanks, Katie. Well done. Good call.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, anybody from 406 like to speak to this?
We have Sean and Izu Dwell
Oh,
LLC
Sean
here.
and Izu Dwell are here. Thanks.
Hello, can you hear me?
Mhm.
My name is Susan Russell, and I'm one of the owners of the Izu Dwell. We've owned the property for roughly 20 years, and we've recognized that we have all these tenants that we've had for years and years. And we're splitting, we would like to split the properties so they're more usable. The houses are on their own land instead of between 2 or 3 properties. And we are offering the properties to our tenants first, which we've already begun to do that.
Great.
And these properties will fall under affordable housing. So do you have any questions for me?
Not necessarily for you, Susan, or maybe for both you and Katie, but is there a slide that shows the current houses with the overlay of the new proposed boundary line?
No, not with an overlay. I have 2 different ones.
2 different slides.
Can I see the 2 different slides again? Because it looked like I was a little confused with what happens to the houses that don't fit into the new boundary lines, or you're saying they all fit?
I'm not sure about your question, but boundary lines run right through the middle of a house.
See there.
Okay, and now,
And we're just moving them so that you
They
can
are all-
have land all the way around the house.
yep, maybe I was looking at the next area. Okay, so that's what the proposed
Yes.
configuration is, and then the current,
There you go. So you see them running through the houses.
yep, thank you. There was some of that aerial that I was confused by, but this is
Did
good.
that
Thank
answer
you.
it? Okay, thank you.
Good.
I'm good. Anyone else?
Okay, yeah, anybody else want to speak to this? Any public comment on this? Do you have any questions, any more questions?
No, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the boundary line reallocation aggregation for a property located at 273 Montana Avenue in East Missoula. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was not reading the right screen, Katie. I'll scratch that and start over. I move that the request by Izu Dwell LLC to utilize the relocation of common boundaries and aggregation exemptions on property legally described as lots 1 and 2, and a portion of lots 21 and 22, block 34, and a portion of lots 16 and 17, block 35, East Missoula Edition, and adjacent vacated alley and Peacock Street be approved based on the findings and conclusion in the staff analysis as presented in the exemption application and affidavit.
All right, I'll second that and ask one more time for any public comment. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Katie.
you.
Thank you guys for.
Thank
coming
you.
in. Okay, lastly for today, the Creighton subdivision, and Tim Worley will present.
All right, this is Creighton subdivision, which last came before you commissioners on September 12th. This is a proposal by Creighton Appraisal PC, represented by Montana Northwest and 406 Engineering for a major subdivision, as you're aware. Advance this. The major item of discussion when we met last time was this erosion hazard area, which is in the Channel Migration Zone study, and we discussed the potential of narrowing it up from about 580 feet of width to 200 feet. The 580-foot erosion hazard area width is depicted in this slide in the orange, and the dashed line approximates what it might look like to narrow it up to about 200 feet. And as you can tell, the 200-foot is much more critical as far as would this be a viable subdivision if you could narrow up the erosion hazard area. So this narrowing up of the erosion hazard area is something that is actually explained within the Channel Migration Zone study. This is a graphic within the CMZ showing the 200-foot erosion hazard area versus the 580-foot erosion hazard area. The dashed line represents the narrowing up of that EHA. So evidence that the subdivision might be less susceptible to erosion, which would favor the narrowing up of that EHA, are demonstration of materials that are those of a more mature terrace. And we found that the soils on the property, as well as the materials underlying the property, underscore this. Also, it was demonstrated that the slough area adjacent to the subdivision has been essentially stable since the 1950s. So based on some of that information and other information that was presented at the previous hearings, commissioners, you continued the hearing to today, October 24th, to consider appropriate conditions of approval and to modify findings of fact accordingly. So we have presented a memo dated October 17, 2024 with updated findings and conclusions, as well as 24 conditions of approval. And a graphic has been presented that shows what it might look like to narrow up that erosion hazard area to about 250 feet. And that's what this dashed line depicts here. So that would be in excess of the 200 feet that's been discussed. I should note that this is an updated exhibit. It's not a revised plat, and it shows possible modifications. So some conditions of approval that are part of the memo, County Commissioners, are this 250-foot wide erosion hazard area, that it be depicted and described on the plat and in the covenants. All lots are able to be modified, but they must be outside of the erosion hazard area. And within the erosion hazard area, this entire area must be depicted as a no-build zone for residential and accessory structures. Creighton Avenue is required to be connected through via a recommended condition of approval. The cul-de-sac that was formerly in this location may be eliminated. And Creighton Avenue is required to be a no parking road due to its 24-foot width. There is a requirement for road maintenance typically with these subdivisions. I think the developer in this case would like the county commissioners to commit to county maintenance of the roadway. And if the road doesn't meet county standards upon inspection of County Public Works, a private road maintenance agreement is required. We discussed this with Shane and he's comfortable with this contingency. So commissioners, within this hearing, the expectation is that this will be a county maintained road, but if it's found to not meet county standards upon inspection, there will be a requirement for a private road maintenance agreement. So the memo that actually is sitting before you today describes essentially this contingency. Because there's shallow groundwater in the subdivision, basements are prohibited in a condition of approval as recommended. Fire sprinklers are proposed with the subdivision, and we do recommend some minor amendments and corrections to the covenant language regarding the fire sprinklers. The original recommendation per our condition 24, I believe it is for cash in lieu of parkland. And one consideration, commissioners, is whether to have a partial cash in lieu dedication equivalent to 50% of the required dedication. This is something that county parks would recommend, although commissioners, I feel you have broad discretion on ultimately whether you require cash in lieu, because there's in excess of 4 acres that go into the common area that is proposed as part of the subdivision. And this 50% comes from section 3.10.7.2, preserving an amenity. The preservation of a physical amenity such as a meadow, a stand of trees, a wildlife corridor, a stream or other water body, an area of riparian resource, a hillside with slopes less than 25%, or some other natural feature. Land set aside, and this emphasis is mine in this case, land set aside to preserve an amenity are limited to 50% of the required dedication. Applicants must demonstrate how the proposed preservation of the physical amenity meets the purpose and intent of this section as described in 3.10.1. But again, commissioners, we feel you have broad discretion on whether cash in lieu is appropriate here or this 50% modification. So commissioners, that's basically all I have, and I'll be available for questions. There's 2 motions with regard to variances, and then the main motion for approval based on the memo dated October 17th.
All right, thanks. I'm going to just lead with a question. So I remember this one really well. And the issue of 500 feet versus 200 feet, we came down to kind of dueling geotechs. There was one lot on this this original map, I don't want to get the words wrong, that seemed to be more vulnerable than any other because of one channel of the river running headlong into the main part of the river. Looked like if there was going to be erosion, that's where it would be. And would this be, I don't know if this is the right map, lot 7?
I believe that's correct. I think it
And
would be lot 7.
I do remember asking if we could just do away with that or consolidate in some way, get a house out of that area. And then at least to my mind, the numbers of feet weren't quite so important because the most vulnerable house would no longer be vulnerable. You guys remember that? Awesome. Great. Please come on up. Thanks for patience me bungling that, but I get, you probably got the gist of what I was.
I got it. Brian Throckmorton with 406 Engineering. Let's see here. You can allow me to share my screen. Brian. So when you look, at what we have here, this was kind of the original that we showed. So lot 7 is
right
way out there. So then, even when we went to the next idea, it stayed the same. We just show the 200 feet. So when we looked at, this is what we showed before. So this was our dashed line that went basically through where the major erosion was. So I think it probably helps if I blow this up too. So, here's basically, you can see the big dotted dash line and where it ran through that old lot and what that really meant as far as the bigger amount of erosion from the 70s versus now happens right at that corner. So what we looked at was, how can we move everything back? So if you look at the old lots, they sat out, lot 9 actually pushed out a long ways. So we adjusted the curve of the road and then shrunk that lot up to where, now you're 250 feet off, plus you have a 25-foot setback. So no lot line at all is within 250 feet. Plus you have 25-foot setbacks per zoning. So a house can't be any closer than 275 feet currently. And we adjusted, and if you remember right, that dashed line went right through this area here. The old house stuck out further was about right here. So with that dashed line, so we basically slid everything in and then slid the house further north to kind of give that area. So currently, where it's a road, and here is the active river channel that you can see in the slide, pushing against this bank coming straight down like this.
Yeah.
So pushed everything basically to the east and to the north a little bit of lot 7 to keep that a viable lot while pushing everything basically off of the river even further. So and trying to keep, that viable, because if we had just got rid of the lot, there was kind of a weird space there that I thought was usable if we re-engineered the curve of the road and how we basically took lot 9 too and made lot 9 smaller, pushed that down so that there's more space in all of that as well. So versus just straight delete, I think a re-engineer seemed to be a better fit for what we're looking at.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. So I don't know while I'm here if you guys have any other questions on it, but that was the idea behind it. So
I had a quick question about the roads. Sorry. So Shane, the county currently maintains which roads in this area?
Yeah, I can probably just share an image and give you a sense of what roads are maintained.
I don't know if you were going to use Brian's slide, but yeah, it's all good.
Can you see that okay? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the roads in blue are county maintained roads. And so just for reference, 3rd Street is kind of this longer stretch around the curve. And so they would have Creighton would come through and connect up with
Walker.
Walker. Yeah, thanks.
Great, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
All right, I think I'm all right too. Then Shane, you're good with what Tim was describing, that we'll inspect the roads. If they're up to county standards, we'll take them. If they're not,
Which
we
is
gotta come
what,
up with it.
yeah, man, that's what we've been doing normally with these
Okay.
subdivisions, and I've had good luck with that. So
Okay, great, thanks.
What's the correct language, Tim, that you had?
Yeah, just a
Let's-
minute
I
here.
could go off of
I'm
the RCA.
reorienting here.
And thank you, Brian and Ken and Tim, for going back and reworking this.
You want to say something?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
there we go.
Ken Jenkins with Montana Northwest Company. Just a couple quick things. Number one, thank you, Missoula County, for your patience. This has been a very long, drawn-out subdivision, and but I think we're arriving at a good place with it. I wanted to comment on the road thing, and I think if I followed Shane's maintenance slide, they're maintaining Walker Drive, but you get to the end of it, they probably have to back out. So as it turns out, the connection with Creighton Road is maybe going to be a good thing. And I appreciate Tim getting the language in there that Missoula County's committed to. It seems like that should be part of the approval. Who's going to maintain the road? And so I think we're getting to that with how this is written. I would also, if we build a road and it doesn't meet the county standards upon an inspection, we're probably not going to get to record our plat until it does. Just as a side note. On the parks thing, so if we were setting aside parkland, I think there's just a little over a half an acre required if we were setting aside land. In total, we've got almost 5 acres of not residential common area riparian zones, that sort of thing. Of that 5 acres, there's probably real close to a half an acre of what we've adjusted backwards with the residential away from the river part that is actually up in the developable part of the property. So I don't know, it is certainly up to your discretion. I sort of agree with the idea that, the river bottom is going to be protected by other things. You're outside of the parks question. But at the same time, it is preserving a lot of things, and we've got setbacks along all of the water that protect the fringes, and a half acre that, but for the channel migration, you could build a house on. So in my mind, it may be a fair compromise, I guess, to do the 50% thing, but that certainly is your discretion. Open to questions if you have any.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Tim, did you have anything you wanted to add or clarify?
The only thing I wanted to add, Commissioners, is whether you want to consent to what Ken just mentioned and go with the modified condition number 24 language on the screen now, and just assume that as part of the motion for quote amended conditions, basically giving them at least 50% credit on the cash in lieu.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Okay, so is there any other comments? I move to approve the variance with from section 3.4.6.2, which requires access off Walker Drive as a road of lesser classification.
I'll second that and call for any public comment. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to deny the variance from section 3.4.6.3, which requires a through connection to Walker Drive.
Any public comment? I'll second that. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to approve Creighton subdivision based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law and the staff memo dated October 17th. Is that the correct date?
Yeah, the memo goes back to last week when it was put into Civic Clerk. So there's actually 3 memos, and I tried to distinguish them by date. So October 17th is the correct date. It's basically the revised findings and conclusions and conditions.
Staff memo dated October 17th, 2024 as amended.
All right. Any public comment?
No, thanks again for everyone's work on this.
Yeah, man, I really hope we got this right. And I hope the folks who buy lot 7 feel good about it. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks. Unless there's any other business, I think we're adjourned.
Nice. Thanks, everyone.